Okay, so the next item on our checklist, we're coming to our fiancé visa checklist here, and we are looking at this one right here. Copies of all previous applications, approval refusal notices for USCIS and or embassy applications, and work authorization cards. So with this one then, when we are putting together our applications, they ask a lot of questions about our previous travel to the United States. So obviously, if you don't have any previous travel, you're not going to need this one. You don't even need to look at this video. But a lot of people have been in the United States before, and if you don't have copies of those documents, it might be a problem. So that's why I want to go through this stuff. So first of all, if you do have copies of your documents, great. Get those handy, and so we can look at the days you arrived, the status you were in, and all the details about that. And then you're going to want to bring them to the interview with you because they might want to just double check to see if those documents had specific instructions for you, but probably not likely. I mean, if they're going to dig into those documents. But anyway, we definitely want you to have them if you've traveled in the United States before. All right, so this is applications, approval refusal notices for the USCIS or the embassy. And of course, the refusal notices are going to be important because if you've been refused a visa, they're going to want to know why. Was it because you made a misrepresentation, because you were previously deported? What was the deal? Work authorization cards. Work authorization cards will indicate the status that you received the work authorization card under and how long you had the work authorization card for. So if you don't have any of this stuff, I want to go over the way that you can actually get this stuff. And this is through the Freedom of Information Act with the USCIS. So the USCIS Freedom of Information Act and Privacy Act, okay, is a way for you to get your old USCIS documents. Okay, so now with the embassy, remember the embassy is actually the Department of State. So this is not for Department of State embassy documents. This is just for USCIS documents. So student visas, you came in on a student visa, you showed it at the border, and then you had your all your student visa documents. That would be there. If you were married before and you filed marriage documents, that would be here. And so any kind of petitions that were filed for you. And so you go to this page, and then here's the overview. They've got this multi-track processing, system here, and disputing cases is always fun if they don't want to give you the actual documents. Then here's how to file a FOIA request. It says you must submit your FOIA request in writing. I'm going to blow this up here some. You can use Form G369, but it is not required. Well, I like to use Form G369, and here is G369 here on the website. And this really organizes the information very well for you. So when you're talking about getting one of these going here, you're going to ask, they're asking you Freedom of Information Act. Yeah, I definitely want that. And then I am not a U.S. citizen, lawful permanent resident. I'm requesting my own records. So the fiance coming in is going to check that one. And then the description of records requested, right? So here's a complete alien file, a file. Now, if an alien file is someone who actually applied for permanent residence and had an alien number. So if you've gotten a permanent resident application before, you're going to want to check this. Otherwise, you're going to want to deselect that, go down here, and say maybe like student, student visa information from 2001, whatever it is, right? And then, again, purpose optional. You're not required to state the purpose of your request. However, doing so may assist you, USCIS, in locating the records needed to respond to your request. And here you would say, applying for fiancé visa. And then here's where your name comes in, name and entry in the United States, I-94 admission number. Remember that I-94 card, that's going to be there, but you probably don't know that. Probably don't have that information because you usually return the I-94s when you go back across the border back home. A number, okay, that's your would be on your green card, your work authorization card, any of that stuff. Petition or claim receipt number, country of birth, date of birth, and then any other family members that may appear on requested records, spouse, daughter, son, or parents. Actually, if you came in as a child of a parent, maybe the parent's going to be here. So there's fathers, mothers, family members' names. So then the subject record consent to release information must be signed by the subject of records. This is one that's very important. I consent to allow USCIS to release the requester named in number 5, all of my records. Okay, remember the requester in number 5. Number 5 is down here. Requester. Sometimes an attorney will request this information, and so you'll set it up so that the attorney receives all this stuff. Otherwise, your name's going to be in both. And if it's just a portion of the records, we always want to get all the records and just see what it all says. The name of the subject of record, deceased subject. Okay, proof of death must be attached. We've done these before. And then you're going to want to verify your relationship. So if it's your father who died, you'd want your birth certificate with your name on it showing that he was actually your father. And then here we go. The subject of record must provide a signature under a notarized affidavit of identity or sworn declaration under penalty of perjury, right? So if you go and get this done with a notary, right, then the notary will sign all this. So otherwise, if you don't want to use a notary, you can swear under the declaration under penalty of perjury here and just click this, and then if it's executed outside the United States, you sign it here. If it's in the United States, you sign it here. So for our fiancés outside the United States, they're going to click on this one. And that is how we fill out the Freedom of Information Act request on that. Now, here's they have this great frequently asked questions about the FOIA. Where do I submit the FOIA requests? And then here is the address where that form is going to go to. And let's see, this is looking a little big. Let's see if we can shrink this down. So here we go. How do I submit my FOIA request or obtain a copy of my file? In writing, must be signed, identifying information, don't send money. If it's a huge file, they might charge you copying, but they'll let you know before they send it to you that there's going to be a charge involved with that. How long will it take to receive my records after submitting a FOIA request? Average processing times are posted on the USCIS website. Oh, really? Okay. Well, hey, let's go back to the USCIS website and let's see what those processing times are, because they actually are here on the on this area. So in the meantime, average processing times are listed on our FOIA page. Check status of request. So we go here, current average FOIA request processing times, all in business days. A 3-track system. So the simple request, track 1, 29 days, track 2, 32 days, track 3, 28 days. So it's right around a month. Use a 2-track system FOIA request for non-alien materials. So track 1 then and track 2 is 110 days. And that's processing time impacted by sensitivity of records, volume of records, and extent of review process. So non-alien file material, this might be a fiancé visa who's only come in as a tourist or a student before, and there's no A file, no alien file. They're harder to determine, they're archived in a different area and more difficult to get out. So, but look, even if it is 110 days, that's like 3 months. If you apply for those records at the same time you apply for your I-129F and you get them going on the same time, you're still going to get those documents back before you need to move forward to the National Visa Center. And if there's a question on the form that you don't know because you don't have those records, you could actually say pending, or I have a pending FOIA request. I'm not sure the answer to that question yet. And that way you don't have to wait the 110 days possibly for getting a FOIA back. And these days really do seem short. It seems like it's months and months and months and months before we get a FOIA response back. So so that is FOIA information and how to get those documents when you actually don't have them. And it is important for you to use referencing those documents again for the dates that are on them, status that you were on, and also bringing them to the embassy is also an important part. And what I would also say is that if you got a CD-ROM, a CD in the mail and your documents are there, I would print it out and I would go to the embassy with paper copies of those so that if the embassy agent asks for anything, you're prepared and you can give them all those documents. And they'll like that. They'll be very happy to be able to just blow through the paper and not have to load it up and search through a CD. If you give them the papers, they can go to write what they want and take care of business quickly, and that'll make them happy. And you definitely want your embassy interview to be done by a happy embassy. Oh, I almost forgot to show you the other FOIA websites for different government agencies you might need to get different kinds of documents. So here with the USCIS at the FOIA frequently asked questions, they also provide you with information about what to do if you were ever turned around at the border and caught at the border and where you send in that FOIA request. So how do I file a FOIA request for a border incident or for information regarding voluntary removal? For information related to voluntary removal, incidents at the border, or other border-related information, please submit a FOIA request to U.S. Customs and Border Protection at the following address. Here it is, U.S. Customs and Border Protection, and you can print out one of those forms and fill it in and send it here so that you can get copies if you were turned around at the border and had an incident like that. So then the next place you might want to go is what I was saying, if you had an embassy incident where you were refused a visa, how do I get those documents? You're going to go to the U.S. Department of State, and if you type in U.S. Department of State FOIA, F-O-I-A, this is where it will lead you here. And this is great because it gives you all the links to fill out all of the different FOIA forms you need. So basic instructions for filing a FOIA request here, and it'll give it right through to you here. Requesting Department of State records, where to send your request. You may mail or fax your request for Department of State to here. Please write Freedom of Information Act on the envelope of the subject line of your fax. So it says there are no special forms needed for making requests for Department of State records, but your request should include the following information. And you know, the thing is, I like to use that USCIS form. It really breaks down so much relevant information that they'll need to actually give you what you're looking for. And so fill in those blanks. I was refused an immigrant visa. I was refused a student visa. I was refused a tourist visa. And if you want to have that information with you when you go to the embassy, that's going to be really, really helpful. Finally, okay, here's the one I'm even hesitant to even talk about it, but we're going to talk about it anyway. The Department of Justice, EOIR FOIA. This is immigration court. So if you were deported in the past and you don't have any of those documents, you're going to definitely want to get copies of these documents. So here we are at the Department of Justice. These are the guys that run the immigration courts, Freedom of Information Act. Here's your FOIA contact, right? And they have a reading room. You can actually go and pull the file and read it if you wanted to do that. And here is the reference guide. And this thing's really deep because, you know, when you're going for immigration court, a lot of times, you know, there's people who are actually in immigration court at the time they're requesting the documents, so they have a really fast track for those people. This thing's really, you know, deep, but it is comprehensive. Where to make your FOIA request, and you know, how to make a FOIA request is all right here. And it says here how to make. You should send your FOIA request directly to the Department of Justice component which you believe has the records you seek. So that means to the immigration court, right? So, and the response times under the FOIA, federal agencies are required to respond to the FOIA request within 20 business days. Okay, that probably won't happen. But again, how would you do it? I like to use that form, the USCIS form. It's a great way to organize all your information. You know, the Freedom of Information Act does not require you to use the form. It wants to be friendly and open to you know, to people who don't have access to any forms. But again, I think it's a good idea because you got the sworn notary thing there. You're swearing to it, and all the data is right there. Your A number would be there. Your where the case was held, what court was, what courtroom you were in, if you know that. Your immigration judge. You can put all that in that form, print it out, and send it in. Believe me, they love it on the other side to get a form where everything is clearly indicated that way. So best of luck on getting FOIA information and getting those documents. But I'll tell you, it's really important. And if you had been deported or if you had an immigration case before, I think you really do need to talk to an attorney about that, because that means the level of your case is very, very complicated. And so you're going to need some advice on how to move forward with that.